All right, I will say good morning. Let us begin. Today's daf is Kuf Aleph 101. We have a beautiful daf ahead of us today. We are picking up in Meretz Hashem at Amar le Rav Nachman l'Rabba bar Avuha. 3 lines into the three with the lines. I should say it's 2, 4, 6, 8 lines up from the bottom. I want to begin by thanking our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank Justin and Abigail Rosemore, our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Sivan, for dedicating all the shir and drushos this month in memory of their beloved son Kobe, Chaim Yaakov David Zichron Livracha ben Yosef Tzadok. Our monthly Talmud Torah sponsors Alan and Sue Meirowitz, and family Jason, Deborah, Justin, Rebecca, Mindy, Simcha, and all the grandchildren, in the merit of Refuah Shlema for Shulamis Tova Bas Mindel. Our DAF sponsors for today, Rachel and Greg and Rachel Levitan, for dedicating the DAF in the merit of Refuah for Sumairis Shulamis Tova Bas Mindel. We also thank Rabbi Avram Kelman, Avram and Shendi Kelman, who Baruch Hashem was Zocha to be in Eretz Yisrael now as well, who are dedicating all of the learning today in memory of Avram's father, Rifa'el Yechiel ben Avram. Also, we hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all the neshamos will have an aliyah, the families a nechama, and those who require a refuah should have one together with Kol Cholei Yisrael. So we'll say, if you remember yesterday, we left off in a really interesting sugya regarding halacha lemaisa, what you do if you want to draw water. Right? Remember again, my boat is in a big lake. I'm just using lake because I don't want drinking water. My boat is in a lake. I want to be able to bring water on board. The issue, of course, on Shabbos, the issue, of course, is that the water is a carmelis. The boat is a rishus hayochid. So although there is no biblical prohibition, there is still a rabbinic prohibition. So how do I do that? How do I draw the water? So if you remember again, we had 2 different opinions. Opinion number 1 says the truth is it's fine because the way we look at a sea is that the airspace of this carmelis is measured from the seabed. Therefore, b'pashtos, when you're drawing water from a makom p'tur, and therefore it's totally fine. The only thing we tell you to do is extend a little pole, so it should be a reminder you shouldn't come to do this in a Rosh Sarabim. Second opinion says make a box, a hollowed out box with nothing in the middle, and go ahead and draw water through that, effectively creating another Rosh Hashanah. So it says the Gemara as follows: Amar li Rav Nachman, Rav bar Avua, u'Rafuna, Rafuna da Amar motzi hemena ziz kolshu. According to the opinion who says that all you need to do is extend a rod as a hecker, as a reminder, omemale zimnin delakas kamatatlem kamatzush yachid. I will say, are we not concerned about the fact that sometimes it is real carmelis? I will say sometimes the water is so shallow that lamais, again, there's less than 10 tfachim, ultimately again from the seabed to the top of the water, and therefore it turns out that you are really drawing water from a carmelis into a rishus hayochid. Amar Papa Geshushe Azli Kaman. Rav Safra said no, because boats I will say have Geshushe. I will say Geshushe literally means are these sailors who stand at the front of the boat with like a pole to make sure ultimately again. I'm sorry, I skipped. Boats in general do not travel in water that is less than 10 tfachim deep. So not going to happen. Vaha Morsha. But the boat has a protrusion. Sometimes the protrusion extends into an area that is less than 10 tfachim. Sometimes again the sailors go in front of the boat, prodding the area to make sure the boat never goes less than 10 tfachim. So we'll say, so therefore again, fine. So Amar Rav Nachman bar Rav Yitzchak Rav Chia bar Avin, Rav Chisda, Rav bar Afuna, Darmi Osemakom Arba, Omemale, Shovchin Didei Haichi Shadu. So we'll say, so therefore again, for the first opinion, we're operating under a certain set of circumstances. Number 1, boats never travel in water that is less than 10 tfachim. Therefore, by definition, whenever your boat is on a lake and you want to draw water, you are drawing water from a makom p'tur, from an exempted area, i.e. above 10 tfachim in the carmelis. And we'll say, ultimately, again, that's why we only require you to extend the pole rod onto the water, just for a hecker, just for a reminder that you shouldn't come to do this in Rosh Hashanah. It says the Gemara, Ulrab bar Rafuna, Damri, Ulrab bar Rafuna, Rav Chis Rafuna, who Damri, Osemakum Arba, Omemale, Shofchin Didei Hechishadu. So listen to this. Now we're switching gears. According to the opinion who says that the way to draw water from the top of the lake is to create a halal box with an area of 4 tfachim and draw the water through that. How does one get rid of waste? Obviously, there's waste on the boat. How do you get rid of the waste? To which the Gemara says, because remember, again, I will say the act of pouring the waste from the boat into ultimately again the water, that's also an act of hotzah from a Rosh Hashanah to a Carmelis. So maybe you'll say it's the same box. The same box that you'll draw the water through, you'll pour out the waste through that. Which the Gemara says, no. But say that's disgusting. A person is not going to go ahead and pour out waste through the same box and the same space through which they're going to draw water. The Gemara says, rather what happens? The shadile adafna desina. People say when getting rid of waste from a boat, the way to do that ultimately is how? You kind of pour it against the side of the boat. So if you pour the waste against the side of the boat, it slides off the boat into the water. To which the Gemara says, Vaha ika kolcho. But one second, even though you're not pouring it directly into the Carmelis, it's your koach, it's your strength, it's your effort that's causing the waste to go from the Rosh Hashanah to the Carmelis. To which the Gemara says, kolcho beCarmelis lo gazru. The Chazal were not goes around a case of kolcho and a Carmelis. So in other words, when it comes to a Carmelis, because we are already dealing with a rabbinic domain, halacha l'maisa, you're only chayiv if you directly transfer from one domain to another rabbinic domain. But if halacha l'maisa, for example, you do something more indirect, like for example in this case over here, I pour the waste along the side of the boat, and then it kind of just comes in and slides in by itself afterwards, that's going to be permitted. To which the Gemara Temra, and from where do you know that Chazal were not goach on your koach, were not gozer on your koach, did not go ahead and legislate that on your koach? Just remember again, you see the difference. Meaning, if I were to pour the wastewater directly into the sea or into the lake, that would be an act of hotzah. The Gemara is suggesting pouring against the side allows it to kind of just like slither off like that, or like slide off. That's called kocho. It's my effort, but it's not direct effort that's transferring ultimately again the waste to the water. So how do I know if that's permitted by a Carmelis? Here we go. The Sanya. Svina lo misocha liyam v'lo menayam l'socha. We'll say a boat. You can't carry from the boat into the sea or from the sea into the boat, which makes sense. That's the Carmelis Rosh Hashanah, top of Kof Aleph. Rabbi Huda Omer, amuka asara ve'im gavoa asara metalton misocha liyam. Rabbi Huda says, if the boat is 10 tfachim deep, but ultimately again, or 10 tfachim high, I should say, but is not 10 tfachim. Vin gava sara. Now in this case over here, what that means is that from the top of the boat to the top of the water is not 10 tfachim. Which again, I will say, so what does that mean? I mean, the boat itself might have a height, the walls of the boat might be 10 tfachim. We're talking about where the boat is submerged into the water. Therefore, again, we'll call it the visible part of the wall is less than 10 tfachim. Look at Rashi. Ve'im gavoa, svasam yud minayam, kigon shemishukas amayim mikoved masa. So we'll say, so let's say you have a boat, which ultimately, again, it has 10 tfachim of depth, but lemaisa, again, part of that depth is under the water. So what's the halacha? So the Gemara says, metaltalin misocha liyam, avalo minayam l'socha. You can carry from the boat into the sea, but not from the sea into the boat. What's the pshat? Maishna minayam l'socha delo kamataltalin. Why can't you go ahead and carry from the sea into the boat? Because ultimately that's a case of carrying from a Carmelis into Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, so the kamataltalin, Carmelis Rosh Hashanah, misocha liyam nami kamataltalin Rosh Hashanah Carmelis. But one second, if that's the case, it should be prohibited to carry from the boat to the sea. After all, isn't that a case of transferring an item from a Rosh Hashanah to a Carmelis? Ella lav achuda. Rather, I will say, what are we talking about? Rashi says over here, lav achuda, shofchim al chuda, v'yard derech dafasa. Rather, what it must mean is, when it says that you can carry from the boat to Rosh Hashanah, what it literally means is, you could pour out the waste over the side of the boat. The waste kind of slides off the boat, and that will be permitted. What do you see from here? Shmamino, kolcha beCarmelis lo gazru shmamino. I will say, what do you see from here? You see from when it comes to Carmelis, the only time that you are chayiv is in a case of direct transfer. when you literally take item A, right? Take it from Rosh Hashanah and transfer it into a Carmelis. But if you do something more indirect, that's what it means, indirect movement, then halacha l'maaseh there is no liability for that by a Carmelis. Therefore, again, if one were to take the wastewater from the boat and kind of pour it on the side of the boat so that it slides off the boat into the Carmelis, that'll be totally mutter. Very interesting. Rafuna says as follows. Hani bitzi asa demeshon imetaltlan bahan ella ba'arba or ba'arba. So we'll say these beitzasa demeshon are these small boats. Rashi says sfinos ketanos uktsaros milamata ad kichudosh asakin shekorn kait. So we'll say what's interesting about these boats are the following: these small boats would come to a point on the bottom. So it was not a flat bottom boat. Instead, again, the bottom of the boat would come like to a point. To which the Gemara says you cannot carry inside of those boats. Why? Ela barba, except for within Dalaramis. Velo amran ela she'im b'pachos mishlosha arba. Both said that's only assuming that what the halacha l'maisa, there is not a space of 4 tfachim within the last 3 tfachim of the boat. So the Gemara says, I'm right. Shema pachos mishlosha arba. So aval yeshu pachos migimel arba less lanba. But ultimately, again, if within 3 tfachim of the bottom of the boat you do have a proper space, then einachinami, all of this is permitted. So now what's happening over here? Look at Rashi just a moment. Ema taltul nesocha. Rashi says, "Delav rishus hayochininhu she'in berachbon arba'a milamata lefichach in mechitzo sein mechitzo." So we'll say what it's saying is like this. This type of boat. Now again, remember, there's a specific type of boat that came to a point at the end. Because it comes to a point at the end, there is not an area of 4 tfachim in order to establish a rishus hayochid. Right? So remember again, rishus hayochid requires 4 tfachim of space, ultimately again with 10 tfachim of height. Because this boat comes to an end at the bottom, there is no 4 tfachim on the bottom. Therefore, the boat is not a rishus hayochid. 1 second. If the boat is not a rishus hayochid, then ultimately again, what is it? So bepashtos, it'll be a Carmelis. It'll be a Carmelis, and if halacha l'maisa, you can't carry more than 4 tfachim ultimately inside of that boat. However, the Gemara says, if halacha l'maisa, there is a space of 4 tfachim within 3 tfachim of the bottom of the boat, then ultimately that allows for carrying throughout the boat. V'imalinu kani v'arvani less lanba. And if you listen to the possibility, is if you fill in the bottom of the boat to the point that you create a flat floor on the boat, that will also go ahead and allow you to carry inside of the boat. Maskiv Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman raised the kasha. I don't understand. V'leima good achis mechitzta. What's an interesting case? Why don't we say good achis? What's good achis? Good achis is the halacha l'Moshe Sinai that says when you have walls, you could extend those walls downward. So halacha, it's an imaginary, it's a halachic extension. Go ahead and take the walls that there and extend them downward. So therefore, again, I will say good achis mechitzta. Let the walls of the boat extend downwards, and you can have a bona fide rishus hayochid. The Gemara says, after all, Milo Tanya, did we not learn? Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Omer, na'atz kana berishus harabim v'rosho traskel. If a person puts in a pole in the rishus harabim, and there's a basket on top of the pole, and I will say, now the case over here is that halacha l'maisa, look at Rashi, traskel ein amuk yud va'anu modedin lo gofa yud shemida sakana o lo gegofa. So listen to this. The case over here is where the pole is 10 tfachim high, but not 4 tfachim wide. The basket, however, has a space of 4 tfachim. Somebody says, so now what did I do? I go ahead and I put a pole in the rishus harabim, and I go ahead and put a traskel. I put a basket on top of the pole. Vizarak v'nach al gabov, and then I throw something and it goes into the basket. What's the halacha? Chayiv. I will say chayiv. No, it's like, why am I chayiv? Because essentially what we do is as follows. We view the walls of the basket as if they extend all the way downwards, creating a bona fide rishus hayochid. So what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa, we do hold to the concept of good achis, to which the Gemara says, therefore, you see we hold here that let the walls extend downwards. Therefore, if you can imagine, you have a thin pole with a basket sitting on top of it. The pole has the requisite height, 10 tefachim or more, but doesn't have the area, doesn't have 4 tefachim of area. You put a basket on top of it, you now have effectively created a Rishus Hayochid. So if you were standing inside the Rishus Rabbim through an object, and that object landed inside of the basket, you would be chayiv for hotzah. Why? Because apparently we go ahead and we view the walls of the basket, which is situated on top of the pole, as if they extend all the way downwards. Good achis mechitzta. Hachanami, name of good achis mechitzta. So therefore, I want to say something about a boat. Right? Ultimately, again, the small boats of Mishon. Small boats of Mishon, ultimately, again, you should be able to carry in them. Because even though they come to a point at the bottom and there's not dalaramas of space, view the walls of the boat as if they extend all the way downwards. Good achis mechitzta. Maske for Rav Yosef, v'lo shamina luhu lahada am Rav Yehuda Marav, umatu ba mishron b'chia v'tani Allah v'chachamim potrin. Rav Yosef said, which the Gemara says, but one second, for instance, remember, not everybody agrees with that. Right? The Chachamim say that halacha l'maisa, if you were to go ahead and throw something from the Rosh Hashanah were to land in that basket, the Chacham say you would not be chayiv. So what do you see from here? Not everyone subscribes to the concept of good achis mechitzta. Right? Not everybody says. Now both say, we'll define this more, but it's clear that not everybody holds this concept. So because not everybody holds this concept, perhaps that's why the Gemara did not suggest it as a possibility for the boat. To which the Gemara says, Amar le Abaye, va'at lo tizbara. So Abaye said, but one second, do you not agree with the concept of good achis mechitzta? That walls, that partition walls, extend downwards? V'atanya, we learned, Amud b'rshus harabim, gavo asar v'rachav daled. So we'll say if you have a pole in the rshus harabim that is 10 tefachim tall, and ultimately, again, at certain points, has a width of 4 tefachim, ve'in bi'ikaro dalid. But ultimately, what Rashi says, ein bi'ikaro, but the bottom of the pole, for example, does not have the shear of 4 tefachim. So what's the halacha? V'yesh bekatzer shelo gimel, the narrower part of the pole only has a width of 3 tefachim. V'zarak v'nacha al gabav, you throw something and it rests on top of the pole. What's the halacha? Chayiv. One is chayiv for an act of hotzah. What do you see from here? Alma Arminon good achis mechitzta. We'll say, what do you see from here? You see from that we do all the concept of good achis. Good achis, we'll say, therefore means that what? As long as somewhere you have a proper mechitza, halachically we could view that partition as if it extends all the way downwards. Hachanami good achis mechitzta. So to over here we are holding that what? So to over here by the boats, we should say that the walls of the boat extend downwards. The boat, therefore, is a bona fide Rishus Hayochid, and halacha l'maisa should be able to carry inside of it. To which the Gemara says, Midi area, I don't understand. How can you go ahead and compare the cases? Hasam, Havile Mechitza, Shagidi, and Bokimba. So we'll say, ultimately, again, in the case of the traskel, remember the case of the basket on top of the pole, the reason the Chachamim don't say good achis, we'll say, is even if you subscribe to the idea of good achis mechitzta, that allows, to allow partitions, mechitzas, to extend all the way down, halacha l'maisa, that's only if there's some semblance of partition. What's the most basic definition of partition according to the Gemara? The most basic definition is a partition that is large enough that a kid, right, an animal, can't go through it. In the case of the traskel abosai, there's really no mechitza. The only mechitza is what? Which halachically are the walls of the basket. So that can't be called the mechitza if ultimately again animals could run right through it. Hacha, but in the case of the amar, in the case of the pole, havile mechitza, shenagdim bokim barbos. In the case of the pole, which was the case where ultimately again the pole itself did not maintain a width of dalat amis the entire way down, but rather again, dalat tfachim, but ultimately again had a shear of, was kind of thinned out to a shear of gimel. There's still a substantive mechitza that's there. Although it is true that halacha l'maisa, the mechitza itself might not be a bona fide mechitza, but there's enough there to work with. In other words, we'll say if you have a most basic semblance of a mechitza, which is again a mechitza, a partition that kids, right, that an animal can't run through, halacha l'maisa, then you can apply good achis. That's the Gemara suggesting. Amarle Rav Acha B'Rav Acha Rav Ashi. Gabesvina nami ha'ika bikias dagim. But one second, there's a different issue. So for what the Gemara suggesting is as follows: that halacha l'maisa, there's a concept of good achis. There's a concept of good achis, which means that if you have kind of like partitions, suspended partitions, you can view that halacha l'maisa as if what? As if the partitions extend all the way to the ground. So the Gemara wants to suggest, therefore, you really should be able to carry by the boat, because even though, again, the bottom of the boat does not have a surface area for tfachim, halacha l'maisa, again, the boat does have mechitzas, and let's view the mechitzas as if they extend downwards. So we'll say, then the Gemara leaves the boat case on the side, brings in two other cases of the traskel and the amud. But bottom line, what the Gemara seems to be saying is as follows: that you could apply good achis, extend the walls of the mechitza downwards, as long as you are working with some semblance of mechitza. What is the most basic definition of mechitza? Is a partition or a blockage that an animal can't get through. But if the animal could get through it, then halacha l'maisa, that's not called a mechitza, and therefore there's nothing to work with. So it says the Gemara, but when it comes to the svina, when it comes to the boat, nami ha'ika bikias dagim. We'll say there is, okay, so on the sea, it's not going to be a kid that runs through it, but the fish do swim right through it, so to speak. And I was supposed to remember again, we're talking about an imaginary, and a halachic mechitza, which halacha allows me to view as if it extends all the way downwards. So if you're going to tell me that I should be able to carry in the boat because I view the mechitzos, the walls of the boat, as if they extend all the way downwards, what about the fact that the fish could swim right through the mechitza? Doesn't that make it like a case of where Gedim Bokimbo, the kid could walk through the mechitza, in which case the mechitza is batal? To which the Gemara said, Amalei, Bikias Dagim Lo Shma Bikia. To which he said, the passage of fish is not really a passage. Uminat Temra. So apparently, again, we're not worried about fish. Rashi says, Lefi She'in Nirin. Apparently, because people can't see the fish going through, what you don't see is not there, says the Gemara. So therefore, again, we could allow the walls of the boat to extend all the way downwards, and even though, again, the fish are swimming through, because I don't see the fish, therefore, halacha l'maisa, good achis will work. Uminat temra, but saying, how do you know, by the way, that ultimately, again, fish swimming through a mechitza does not invalidate the mechitza? The ba'im minei Rabbi Tavla mirabin. Because Rabbi Tavla asked the following question from Rabin. Mechitza tluya ma'ushet hatir b'chorva. Supposed to listen to this case. So let's say you have a ruin. And the way this ruin worked, I will say, is let's say the bottom part of the wall is missing, but the upper part of the wall is still there. Can we go ahead and view the top part of the wall as extending downwards, and ultimately again say good achis mechitzta? To which the Gemara says, Amrle in. He said yes, that would work. Mechitza tuli mataras. Why? Because we'll say a suspended mechitza has the ability to enclose an area. So we'll say, again, this is good achis. So good achis tells you that halacha l'mais, as long as the top part of the wall is intact, we could view halachically as if the wall extends all the way downwards. Amid beis, ella b'mayim. So ultimately, again, let me say that differently. The Gemara says, Amrle, so Amrle in. I'm sorry, read that wrong. Amrle ein mechitza teluya mataras. To which he responded, no, a suspended mechitza does not go ahead and enclose the area. So if I will say, if you have a chorva, the top part of the wall is intact, the bottom part of the wall is missing, halacha l'maisa, we do not view it as if the top part of the wall extends downwards, with one exception. Now, amud beis, ella b'mayim. I will say the only exception to this rule is water. That in water, if you have a mechitza, let's say that begins on the top of the water, you could see that mechitza as if it extends all the way down. Kalu shekilu chachamim b'mayim. And I will say this is a leniency that the rabbis brought up by water. So leniency by water. Va'amai, why is that? Ha'ika b'kiyas dagim. Are we not concerned about the fact that the fish could swim through the mechitza? So we'll say I would have assumed that fish are to a water mechitza what a gedi is to a land mechitza. And just like, again, if the kid could get through the mechitza, it's not called the mechitza, and you can't apply good achis. I would have thought the same applies by the water. Since the fish could swim through, quote unquote, through the mechitza, that's not called the mechitza. To which the Gemara says, Ela shmamina Bikiyas dogim lo shma bikiya. Rather, what do you see from here? You see from here that the fact that the fish swim through it does not go ahead and invalidate the mechita. So I will say that's how this Gemara ends off. Right? So the Gemara ultimately ends off by telling me that halacha lamaisa mechitza teluya, generally a suspended mechitza, is not viewed as if it extends downward. The only exception to that rule is water. Right? By water, because by water we're not talking about the passage of the fish. By water, the mechitza teluya ultimately again will be a mechitza. So we'll say we're going to see a lot of these sugyas when we get to Erevin as well, in terms of what's a mechitza, what's a partition, what you're able to enclose. But just understand that the concept ultimately again of good achis mechitzta, the concept ultimately again of the mechitza walls extending downwards, is according to almost all a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, Sinaitic law. How you apply it, when you apply it, the Miras Hashem will see. Says the Gemara, weiter, Svinos Kshuros, supposed to remember again, the Mishnah said that if you have boats tied one to the other, you can carry from one to the other, right? That was Lashon of the Gemara. The Gemara says over here, the Mishnah said, Svinos Kshuros zubazu mitaltam izulazu. If the boats are tied to each other, you can carry from one to the other. So says the Gemara, Pshita. Isn't that obvious? I'm supposed to say, of course, if the boats are tied together, that you can go ahead and carry from one boat to another. Amarava lo nitzrucha ela lahatir bitzas shevinayed. Excuse me. To which the Gemara says, no. What's the case? The case Rabbi says, interestingly enough, where the boats, there's two larger boats, and there's a bitza. Bitza, Rabbi say, is like a small little rowboat. There's a little rowboat in between them. So therefore, again, the novelty of the Mishnah is I can carry from boat A to boat B, even though, again, there's a little boat in the middle, and I have to traverse the area of the little boat. What's the chiddush? Look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, actually, not yet. So Amalei Rav Safra, so we'll say ultimately again, Rav Safra said as follows. Rav Safra said, Moshe, Shapir Ka'amrit. Moshe, you're saying good. Rashi says, Kilomar Rabbeinu B'doro Kimoshe B'doro. So remember again, this is Rav Safra talking to Rav. He's calling Rav Moshe. That just like Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of his generation, so Rava was the leader of his generation as well. And halacha l'maisa, whatever he said was correct. So the Gemara says, Moshe, Shapir Kamrat, Moshe. Now here he's questioning him. Are you saying good? At the end of the day, Mataltlan Mizul Zulukat Tanan. That's not what the Mishnah says. So you say the way Rava was setting up the case was, the novelty in the case was, you could carry from boat A to boat B, even though again there's a little like a dinghy, right? There's a little rowboat in the middle, and I have to go ahead and carry over the rowboat. So the Havamina is, I would have thought that because rowboats are prone to kind of float away, that I should not be able to carry from one ship to the other. Kamash Malon I can. To which Rav Safra says that's a nice explanation, but that does not shtim with the Mishnah. Why doesn't it shtim with the Mishnah? Because the Mishnah said ultimately what? That you could carry from one boat to the other, which makes it sound like the act of carrying is going directly from one boat to another, not through an intervening smaller boat. To which the Gemara said, Rav Safra said, Lo nitzrucha ella la'arev u'letaltal mizulazu. We'll say, no, rather what the Mishnah is teaching me is that what? Is that halacha l'maisa, I have to go ahead and make an Erev. Now we'll say, the Gemara's Havamina was that when we say you could carry from one boat to another, what does that mean? I own both boats. And therefore the Mishnah is teaching me that Allah wants to carry from one boat to the other. That's why I will say, Rava says, there must be a different message here, because that's obvious. So we'll say, remember, if I have two boats and they both belong to me, of course I can carry from one boat to the other. What's the Havamina that I couldn't? So therefore Rava says, no. The novelty is the boats have a smaller boat in the middle, and I can still carry from boat A to boat B through the smaller vessel, and I'm not concerned that ultimately, again, it's going to get dislodged. So Rav Safra says that's fine, except that's not how to read the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that you can carry from one boat to the other, which sounds like the act of carrying is direct. To which the Gemara says, you're right, what's the case? The case is where the two boats belong to two different people. Reuven and Shimon, each of them own a boat, and the novelty of the Mishnah is El Arev Uletaltel Mizu Luzu. You are permitted, Rabbi say, to make an eruv, right, with the two boats, and therefore once you make an Erev with the second between the two boats, you can carry from one boat to the other. So the Gemara says, Ukidisanya, as we learned, Sfinos Kshuros Zubazu, if you have boats that are tied one to the other, Metaltalin, Ma'arvin, you can make an Erev between the boats, Umetaltalin Mizulazu, and you can go ahead and carry from one boat to the next. Nifseku, however, again, if the rope tying the boats together on Shabbos ripped, Ne'esru. So say, remember again, all of this is presupposed the boats are tethered together. That's when you're allowed to go ahead and carry from one to the other if you own them, if you own them both. And number two, the other novelty I will say is that what? That if Reuven owns one boat, Shimon owns the second boat, they can make an Erev with each other in order to allow the carrying between one boat and the other. Now what the Gemara says, however, is as follows. If the rope breaks and the boats are no longer attached, even if Reuven and Shimon made an Erev, ultimately they cannot carry from one boat to the other. Nifseku nasru, chazru v'nikshuru. What happens if halacha l'maisa you retied the boats? Ben shogegin, ben mazidin, ben onsin, ben mutin, chazru l'tein harishon. This is incredible halacha. The halacha is by partitions. We'll see by partitions also. But in this case over here, it's with the tying of the boats. So we'll say the tying of the boats, again, creates one rishus. Therefore, again, even if you have two different owners, they can make an Erev with each other. But that Erev only works when the boats are tied together. So therefore, again, if the rope rips, so the Erev is no longer valid. Now, the novelty I will say is, halacha l'maisa, if someone retied the rope, somebody retied the boats together, whether they did it intentionally, unintentionally, halacha l'maisa, chazru l'tein harishon. The Erev is reinstated. So we'll say there's two novel ideas over here. Number one, that if someone does a malacha, even b'mezid, halacha l'maisa, it goes ahead and it works. It works, that's number one. And number two, even though, again, you made an Erev, then you lost the Erev when the ships untied from each other. If someone reties the ships, the Erev is reinstated. V'chein machatzelas. We'll say the same thing is true with the mat. Ha'prusos l'rosh sarabim. Ma'arvin umetaltalin mizulazus. What's the interesting case? Let's say a group of people come along and they go ahead and they put up partitions in the Rosh Hashanah. Each of them building their own little room in Rosh Hashanah. So we'll say, what's the halacha? That works to affect the Rosh Hashanah. And the halacha is, as long as all of the residents, all the people living in these little one room areas, as long as they make an Erev with each other, ma'arvin umetaltalin mizulazu. Niglalu. What happens if the mats are rolled up or the mats, fly away? Ne'esru. Then obviously they can't carry from one place to the other because the Erev is no longer intact. However, chazru v'nifreshu. But if halacha l'maisa again, the mats came back. So we'll say, so imagine for a moment over here, this case, I'm going ahead and I'm making myself a little structure in the Rosh Hashanah, but I'm just doing it with mats, right? So I'm hanging up 4 mats. Those are my walls. So that's fine. And now let's say I do it and Reuven does it and Shimon does it. We could all make an Erev together and we could carry from each other's mat homes over the course of Shabbos. What happens if the mat blows away? Then obviously again the Erev is invalidated. But if someone goes ahead, comes along and repairs the mat, even though they did it intentionally, they violated Shabbos, halacha l'maisa, the Erev itself is reinstated. So the Gemara says, so chazru v'nifreshu, bein shogegin, bein mazidin, bein anusim, bein mutain, chazru lihiyot l'haterin harishon, shekol mechitza shenasa b'Shabbos, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, shma mechitza. I will say this actually, so what the Gemara is suggesting over here is this is the principle, right? Any mechitza that is made on Shabbos, whether it's made intentionally or unintentionally, is called a mechitza for Shabbos purposes. Halacha l'maisa, Rabbi say, whether you went ahead, so here's what we have. Here's what we have. That halacha l'maisa, when you make an Erev, that Erev remains as long as nothing materially changes. But the moment, let's say in the case of the boats, where ultimately, again, the rope is cut and the boats begin to drift away from each other, or they're just not locked together, or in the case of the mats, where the mats fall down, or are blown away, or are taken away. So halacha l'maisa, under those circumstances, the Erev is invalid. But if someone were to come ahead and retie the boats, which I will say is usher, or someone were to go ahead and put up the mats again, which on Shabbos is usher, as much as it's aser, halacha l'maisa, they created a mechitza, and it works for Shabbos purposes. Any mechitza that was made on Shabbos, whether you did it intentionally, unintentionally, it works to serve as a mechitza. Pretty amazing. Ini, is that so? Bomer Rav Nachman, lo shana ela lizrok, aval taltal aser. Rav Nachman said, when do we say that halacha l'maisa, if you put up the mechitza on Shabbos, whether you did a b'shogeg or amazing, it's called a mechitza. That's only true for what? To go ahead and throw something. If you throw something from one domain to another, from, let's say again, I will say from the boat into the sea, or from that matter from one of the reed rooms that you made outside, you're chayiv. But ultimately, again, if alataltel, I will say to carry inside of it, ultimately again it's aser. That won't help. To which the Gemara says, Rashi says alataltel, lios mutal taltel b'socha aser medivrayim. So the Gemara says, Ki itmar Rav Nachman amazed itmar. So we'll say, Inachinam, you're right. Rav Nachman's statement was only made in a case of mazid. Look at Rashi, amazed itmar, umishum knasa, diktani masnisin. Chazra will say, therefore again, what the Gemara suggesting is like this. When Rav Nachman said that halacha l'maisa, that the only time that these partitions work is ultimately if you threw something from the area of the partition outside, you'll be chayav for otzah. That's talking about a situation where the partitions or the boats were repaired b'mezid. So if it's b'mezid, we're going to be a bit stricter. But if it was b'shogeg, then halacha l'maisa, the mechitza actually could function as a mechitza, even though it was fashioned on Shabbos. Amr Shmuel, v'afilu kshuros b'chut hasarbal. Shmuel says, going back to the boat case now, so here's what we've established, that halacha l'maisa, if you have two boats belonging to two different owners, if the boats are tied together, you can make an eruv between the boats. Comes along Shmuel and says, by the way, you could even tie the boat together. Chut hasarbal means a piece of a cloak. Now, generally, one would imagine that when one was tying, if one was tying boats together, tying the boat to the dock, you would tie it with something much more significant. What Shmuel is saying now is as follows: even if you go ahead and you tie the boats together with a piece of a cloak, which in generally would not be considered to be ultimately, again, the strongest way to go ahead and tie the ships together. Nevertheless, it works. Look at Rashi, b'chut hasarbal, shekoshin bas beisat savrish kavain. So we'll say, so heichidami, what's the case? Idi yachala midan pshita. So we'll say, if you're talking about a case where the piece of cloak can hold the boats together, then obviously it's going to be okay. If the piece of material does not have the ability to keep the boats together, then ultimately again I will say, why would that be good enough to allow you to make an eruv to carry from one boat to the other? To which the Gemara says, the olam diyachol lahamidan. In reality, halacha l'maisa, the case that we're dealing with over here is where the piece of the cloak is in fact strong enough to hold the boats together. So what's the chiddush? Here we go. And Shmuel is actually coming to go ahead and exclude something, or I should say reframe something that he said elsewhere. Disnan, listen to this. Disnan, because we're into the Mishnah. Kshura b'davar ha'ma'amida mevi la tuma. So also listen to this case. Rashi says, b'davar ha'ma'amida mevi la tuma im hayarosho echad kasher ba'ohel ha'meis maybe tuma lekelim shebesfinu u'lesfinat. So listen to this fascinating case. Let's say you have a boat that is tied to a house. And take it even better, the boat is actually tied to something inside of the house. Okay? Someone now dies in the house. So there's a mace in the home. So we know what happens when there's a mace in the home. There's tumas ohel. Right? Everything inside under the same roof as the mace becomes tameh. So what the Gemara is saying is like this. If halacha l'maisa, the boat, was being held in place by something significant, right, what we call davar ha'ma'amida, an item that ties it strongly. If one end of that rope is inside of the home, listen to this, that end of the rope conveys tumah or transfers the tumah, allows the tumah to flow throughout the rope onto the boat, to the point that the boat, as well as any utensils on the boat, will become tameah. But what are we dashing from here? The Gemara says, "B'davar she'ein ma'amida ein mevi la tama." But what do you see from here? If the boat is anchored to the house by a rather flimsy item, then halacha l'maisa, the flimsy item does not conduct tumah. So we'll say that would seem to contradict what Shmuel just said before. Shmuel, Shmuel said, I will say, what kind of rope are we talking about? What kind of rope is it that halacha lamaisa will convey to us? So we'll see here, this is really a fascinating case. So remember, what the Gemara, what Shmuel is suggesting over here is that halacha lamaisa, a rope conducts tumah. A rope conducts tumah, which is really pretty amazing. So again, remember the tip, we'll call it the head of the rope, is inside the home with the corpse. That rope transfers tumah down the rope to the boat, to all the contents on the boat. But Shmuel says, what type of rope are we talking about? A davra ma'amida, something very strong that really anchors the boat in place. For the Gemara says, Shmuel says, what's an example of that? Ultimately, again, if the boat itself is tied with a chain, an iron chain. So an iron chain is something that ultimately remains in place. That's also the type of item that will conduct tumah, ultimately, again, to the boat and its contents. So both sides. So remember, this is Shmuel. So because it's Shmuel, I would have thought that halacha lamaisa, the same applies by Shabbos. When are two boats considered to be attached, and therefore the two owners could go ahead and make a mechitza? Could make an eruv, That's only when halacha lamaisa, the boats are tied together with something significant like a metal chain. However, the Gemara says, so now the Gemara is suggesting over here that, now remember, just follow the flow. So Shmuel came along and said that the boats can even be tied together with a piece of a cloak. So Shmuel, which one is it? Is it that in order to anchor something together, you need an iron chain, like we just saw by the case of Tumah, or is even a piece of cloak enough to tether it? To which the Gemara says they're both right, just two different cases. Here we go. So the Gemara says le'inyan Tumah hu dechsev b'chalal cherev hariu kechalal. So also when it comes to Tumah, the Torah is lashon of chalal cherev. Now this happens to be talking about the fact that metal contracts Tumas mace. But the Gemara's darshaning from it is that also in order to conduct Tumah, you need something strong like metal. So therefore, Rabbi say, in order to conduct Tumah along the anchor of the boat, that only works if the anchor is made of something significant like iron. Aval in Shabbos, kevan diyachol la'amida. But I will say, by Shabbos, really all I need is what? All I need are the boats to be together. Then afilu b'chot hasarbal. Halacha l'maisa, even if what? Even if all you're using is the cloak, that is going to be enough to tether the boats together. So we'll say, halacha l'maisa, what comes out of this Gemara is as follows. So first of all, we paskin like this idea that any mechitza that was made on Shabbos, whether it was made b'shogeg or b'mezid, halacha l'maisa, the mechitza works. That's number one. Beis, what Shmuel's teaching us is as follows: that if you have two boats owned by two different owners, they have the ability, again, if they tether their boats together, to go ahead and make a joint eruv, which would allow for transfer between one boat and the next. What Shmuel's just suggesting is that whereas by the laws of Tumah, in order to conduct Tumah from the home to the boat, you need a substantive anchor, something made of metal, that's only by Tumah. By Shabbos, halacha l'maisa, as long as the boats are tethered together, even if technically speaking they're tethered with something more flimsy, like the piece of a cloak, halacha l'maisa, although for Tumah that won't work, for Shabbos that does tie the boats together, making them into one rishus and allowing the owners to make a joint eruv. All right, we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up Amiras Hashem at the Mishnah tomorrow. For those who are remaining on for the Zoom minion, I'm going to end this stream, and Amiras Hashem will begin anew in the Shupar.